Our speaker today, uh, I'll use his full name here since reading from a little bio he sent me. Uh, H. Randy Grumpelt, a PhD level psychologist who's taught courses on the subject at graduate and undergraduate levels. He's published many articles in a book, Beyond Delusions and Conformity Pressures. He had a private practice for many years, recently bored with retirement, began to practice again in Abingdon. His talk will be on what science suggests can aid one in developing a style of life that may increase one's inner sense of happiness. Should be interesting. And so we'll turn it over to you, Randy.
Okie doke, thank you. My friend, this report has taken me several hundred hours of work, and I hope it can give each of you some satisfaction that you're doing the right things, or perhaps might increase or reorient yourself in some ways. I believe that humans, using science and reason, can answer most of humanity's questions. So even looking at something as subjective as happiness, I will turn to science for answers. You can certainly slice and dice the subject in many different ways, and here's my attempt. Happiness has been a goal of humans for thousands of years. It's even mentioned in our Declaration of Independence that each of us have an inalienable right to liberty, life, and pursuit of happiness. That's you and me. If you think about it, you may be aware that there are some limits to our ability to feel joyful and content and happy. And just to give you a brief overview of some of the limitations, if you've experienced abuse or deprivation, real deprivation in childhood, that can dampen significantly your ability to feel happy. If you've lost unexpectedly someone that you really care about, that you love, that can interfere. If your loved ones, if you've also lost loved ones or lost your home due to some kind of catastrophe, it can be difficult to feel any prolonged contentment. But aside from these kinds of features, and barring any major adverse events, we can train ourselves to be happier. We can train ourselves to be happier. Here's a quote from Martin Seligman. He's a psychologist who's considered to be the father of positive psychology. And he was elected the president of the American Psychological Association. And just a couple months before he became elected, he wrote this. He was weeding in his garden with his 5-year-old daughter. Her name was Nikki. She was throwing weeds around, singing and dancing, while I actually was trying to get my weeding done. I yelled at her. She walked away, then came back and said, "Daddy, do you remember before my 5th birthday, I was a whiner. I whined every day. But when I turned 5, I decided not to whine anymore. That was the hardest thing. I've ever done. And if I can stop whining, you can stop being such a grouch. Dr. Seelman decided to stop being a grouch, and instead he became a leader in teaching people how to achieve a happier life. Just for a moment, some of the broader aspects of this picture. There's something that's produced every couple years called the World Happiness Report. And it's the product of the United Nations, a subcommittee there, or a committee. And they've mentioned 6 features in comparing one country to another on their relative happiness levels. And this is a country or nation level. One is social support, having family, friends, or neighbors who you can count on in times of trouble. Another is GDP. That is the average purchasing power of a person. If GDP in your country is relatively high, you have a better chance at happiness. And health expectancy since birth. This has to do with genetics and other kinds of things, but it means that if your parents have lived a long life, or grandparents, you have a possibility there yourself of having a healthier life, free of pain, and free of constant trips to doctors. Also, another aspect on the countrywide level is freedom to make life choices. And in some countries, that's limited. That's limited significantly. Generosity. If you have donated money to a charity or personally helped others in the last month or so, that can contribute to your happiness. Finally, corruption. If there's widespread corruption in the government and in business, when one tends to feel that he's often cheated, it's difficult to feel contented. At any rate, the highest rankings for happiness are citizens of Finland, Norway, Denmark, Ireland, Switzerland. The US is 18th in 156 countries surveyed. That's not too bad. At any rate, I believe that what makes people happy is solid support systems, good public services, and even paying a significant amount in taxes for that. I'm sorry, that was a quote. So, what do we have control of? Well, think of Nikki, that 5-year-old who changed her dad. It's a case where you can increase the amount of control within yourself. It means saying, I'm not at the hands of the fickle finger of fate. Of course, to some extent you are. But the more that you insist that you can take some control and be more assertive, the more likely that you will have some control and that you can control happiness. This is one of those bridges over troubled waters. There's one study of a whole bunch of people, 131 participants, and they used self-assessments of spontaneous gratitude. Gratitude did prove to be a buffer for stress. So even on days when you have the highest levels of stressful events, gratitude could bring with it a strong sense of well-being. I'll repeat that. Even if you're really under a lot of stress, gratitude can change that feeling of stress. Gratitude increases the sense of well-being. There's a college professor named Kristen Lears, who says that when she's feeling stressful, she tries to focus on the very good things in her life and not to dwell on the bad. And she often does gratitude letters, sends them to people that she knows that have touched her in some way. And what I'm trying to say here is that the more you can sense gratitude and do something about it, the more likely you are to feel happy. We're a social species. We need to do things within our species, and this is one that's really important for happiness. There's an additional side to positive emotions, and that is they're often accompanied by longer life, improved health. There was a study done on nuns, and they looked at their daily journals. And over time, they found that nuns who expressed positive emotions more often have longer lives, richer lives, and even lower levels of inflammation. That's getting down to the physiological level. So again, could you take control of some of your emotions and decide that you're going to be happier? That sounds almost backwards, doesn't it? Positive, but it looks like positive emotions cause happiness. It isn't the other way around. It isn't that, oh, you're happy, so you have positive emotions. In this case, the chicken did come before the egg. There's a famous psychologist by the name of Steven Pinker, and he's written a couple of books. The most recent was Enlightenment Now, The Case for Reason, Science, Humanism, and Progress. This is dated just 2018. It was a good book. This is the second he's done. Currently, these are some of the findings. Currently, 2/3 of people within our world live in democracies now. IQ scores have risen by 30%. I'm sorry, 30 points. And would that be 30%? I don't know, that wouldn't be. They've risen by 30 points in the past 100 years. In part, that's probably due to better nutrition. But 30 points is a huge amount. And probably also has to do with better education, but it's there. Also, there's been better medication and sanitation that helps to extend our lives and to have a healthier life. We're even 96% less likely to die in a car crash. That's because cars have become safer. The world is 100 times wealthier than it was 200 years ago. And think about this. If you want to think about adequate gratitude for changes, a majority of Americans, poor Americans, as a matter of fact, have luxuries that were unavailable to the Astors and the Vanderbilts of 150 years ago. In developed countries, most of the poor have electricity. They have some kind of air conditioning. They oftentimes have color TV and certainly mobile telephones. Pinker points out, and I agree, these are things that we can be grateful for. My second point is develop and keep positive relationships. We need to increase closeness to our kin and develop deeper friendships and with people who hold similar values. As a matter of fact, thinking about relationships, married men and women are on the average happier. We do need closeness. We all need that. By the way, what I'm giving you here is again, the results of a lot of research. This isn't just that, oh, you know, I thought about happiness and here's what you should. No, what I'm presenting has a lot of background data on it. Having a supportive network of close relationships does increase happiness. Those who enjoy close relationships cope better with a variety of stressors, including bereavement, rape, job loss, illness. And here's another interesting finding. Those people who prefer high income and job success over close friends and close marriages are twice as likely to describe themselves as unhappy. Think about that. Boy, you know, success is all, drive for it, spend your time searching for that success and neglect some friendships, and you're likely to be much less happy. By the way, marriages are certainly a positive for happiness. However, having children is a mixed blessing. They bring so many problems and problems. So it's interesting. Another interesting factoid: people in South America report feeling happier than those in North America. And that's even though their incomes are significantly lower. This is just a guess, but experts guess that the focus on family and friendships in South America is what confers those pleasurable benefits. Another way of looking at happiness. Some of you have heard of the hunter-gatherers in the far distant past. Several hundred years ago, we were primarily hunter-gatherer species. There are still about 90 small isolated groups of people in Africa, some in Asia, some in South America, that are still hunter-gatherers. They are removed from modern progress. And the hunter-gatherers usually have not more than 50 or 60 people in their commune, and traditionally, it's not just women who take care of the kids, it's everyone. Traditionally, uh, everyone teaches the kids. And traditionally, in those groups, interesting, and there's no hierarchy. It's not, hey, men are superior. Hierarchies occur, but only in terms of the tasks that are involved. Those who know where the best berries are, or when the fishing grounds are going to be available, the time of year, those are the ones who are turned to for specific tasks. Isn't that interesting? Gosh, we're so much accustomed to hierarchies and responding to them. And unfortunately, they are not that positive for us. Um, Another side to hierarchies and relationships. There's a psychologist by the name of Buss, and in the year 2000 he wrote a book, and he talks about the invidious comparisons, the us versus them comparisons. Oh, the media does such a job on us. You know, they show you in advertisements this beautiful house with this gorgeous automobile standing next to it. And of course, men and women who are just marvelous to look at. And you may say, oh my gosh, well, I don't really, that doesn't really influence me, but it's hard not to be influenced. And what are those advertisements telling you? Uh, be better than other people, get this car, buy this, and it's corruption. It's corruption of our souls. And it's hard to turn away from it. You can turn away from it. You can begin to, with friendships and better relationships. But ask the Buddhas of the world, and they might say that we're only on this earth for a very short period of time. And all of us are deserving of goodwill. My third point is that we all need important things to do. We all need meaningful lives. By that, I mean meaningful lives. We need projects that fit us, that are within our ability to complete. It's like what I'm doing right now was a project. It took me a lot of time. And I thought, well, if I keep at it, I have a file that thick on happiness. And I thought, well, I can work through that. I can. And I have. Of course, you're the one to tell how well I did. At any rate, having projects with the ability to complete them is something that is very, very important. Actively religious people are less likely to abuse drugs or alcohol. They're less likely to get divorced or commit suicide. And there's less guilt among the religious, at least those who don't practice guilt giving. And people who are religious tend to be happier. Of course, that result could be due to the fellowship that they find, or it could be due to maybe the engagement in good works that sometimes occurs with religions. My fourth point, yeah, has to do with that. Be a do-gooder. A review over 100 years of research suggests that using your life in the service of something larger than yourself may confer unexpected benefits to you. Apparently, altruism improves self-esteem, reduces stress, and even extends your life. A piece of data. Altruistic people who are involved in helping organizations showed a 63% lower likelihood of dying over a 10-year period than did non-volunteers. So get up off your bum and do some things once in a while. Even controlling for age and gender and exercise, social support, the effect was still very strong. A lesser rate of dying. In another study, older couples who provided no support to others were twice as likely to die in a 5-year period as those who helped their spouses and friends and relatives. Altruism confers benefits on the giver as well as the given. Some have suggested that altruism is best performed without the prominent, I am doing this for others, when it just is part of the flow and you lose some kind of consciousness. You're just there and doing it. The naturalness increases benefits. And, so attempts to diminish global warming, decrease poverty, help sick people, and especially stamping out ageism. That's a real project with heart. In summary, all conclusions that come from science must be tentative and circumscribed. If we wish to provide practical information, however, we have to attempt to generalize and hope that we don't overreach to the point of being inaccurate. Most of the information that I have presented, I've attempted to provide data that does simplify, and yet I believe is essentially accurate. The limitations of what I have concluded is that you may not be able to practice much of what I've talked about if you've had severe deprivation or abuse in childhood. And the deeper the negatives in infancy and early childhood, the more difficult to go beyond. I will at some time in the future talk about people who have been injured in early childhood and so forth, and what approaches toward happiness they can take. But that's for another time. At any rate, for most of us, if we do have a stable living space and we have adequate food, water, and clothing, we can do okay. A job also seems necessary for people who are still in the job market, young enough to be in the job market. A steady income is important for a level of happiness. But within those limits, there are things we can do. One of the major ones I've been talking about is turning on the positive, the feel-good emotions, laugh, enjoy, be with compatible people. Paramount also is the attitude that says, I can change. I have the ability to do that. Having good projects with heart that you commit yourself to can help. I think I have also documented that closeness with family and friends is necessary. Finally, an altruistic approach to life. And thank you for listening. I appreciate the audience. That's it.